Apologies if my speaker is too loud. Just turn me down if you need to. Data visualizations. Today's going to be 3 and 4. So, traditionally speaking, let me give you some background information. That first video really spent time on showing you basic visualizations. Are there other visualizations? Yes. They're just different layers. Geom bar, geom point, geom box plot, geom histogram, geom volume plot. Those are basics. There's other geom that you can potentially use based on the variables that you're working with. But now you have a general sense. The thing is, when I was creating those plots, I was actually very upset because I really don't like that gray background. I hate that gray background. I like to make my plots look, pretty. And so that's what we're going to be doing today, making our plots look more aesthetically pleasing. Okay. And so here, this is going to, by us using geom point, that's going to be a scatter plot of X and Y. And I know some of my notes, I'm actually going to go off my notes a little bit and just give you more information just for fun. And so here, this theme BW stands for black and white, and it just it gets rid of the gray background, and I love it. Okay, so there's a lot of other ways to make your theme, which I'm going to paste this. Okay, you see the gray background is gone. There's other themes like theme minimal. Okay, that's almost the same thing, but reduces the black border. There's other themes as well. If you just press tab, I don't know why you did that. Okay, tab, you can see you have. Hopefully that doesn't happen again. I'm gonna keep going. You can do gray and then just run this. Okay, it's there, just like before. You need to do some weird ones. Let me see if I can find a weird one. Okay, that's a weird one. Alright, so there's other things you can potentially work with. Alright, and we'll talk more about themes in a moment. Oh, you can do theme classic, that's one as well. Name one possible benefit of using theme BW over theme classic. I think classic is the one that, let's go ahead and just see what it does so we can compare and contrast. I'll run this. Oh, there's no, okay, I see what the issue, because there's no lines, right? And so you really can't pinpoint what the exact point, there's no grid lines. That'll be the issue. Let's see. Lines can be tracked back to the axis and estimate the point on our line. Whereas theme class, it doesn't allow you to do that. Okay, that's cool. Here, this talks about labeling. So we can do a lot of labels. I'm pretty sure you saw that with the, you saw that with the PPC, the peer project. And so we can say the function is called labs. We can say X is equal to, we can actually spell out weights instead this time. We can say then Y is equal to, let's say, miles per gallon. I'm going to run this and it's going to give me an error. Not that error, but a different error. And hopefully everyone can see why this is going to give me an error. Right? Because this needs to be in quotes. Okay, that's great. Okay, so miles per gallon and weight, and then we can actually give it a title. You can say title is equal to relationship between variables. Okay. And as you can see, this is fine. That we say, why does it do that? And it's annoying why it does that. But notice I can make this change by adding another layer called theme. So it's called theme, and this theme is going to be where I do most of my directions, most of my changes. So what I mean by that is like I can do plots dot title, and this allows me to change the actual plot title's characteristics. And so what I'll do is say plot dot title, and I'm going to change the tags. I'm going to do a restart of my R just so that I could, maybe make this not give me errors. Pretty sure that's not happening to you. I have to run this line again, these lines, at least tidyverse, so I can have access to ggplot and dplyr. And then I'm going to do element, text, and then the functionality, at least the call, it's called HJust. HJust stands for horizontal adjustment, 0.5. That's going to center my title. Okay, so there we go. You can also increase the size of the title. You can say size is equal to 15. That increases it a little bit, so on and so forth. One more thing, just because I want to, you can do a subtitle as well. And you can say, just for fun. And then you can center it as well. With, you can imagine, plot. What do you think it would be? Plot dot subtitle, right? Element text. HJust 0.5. I forgot a comma here. Just for fun. Okay, good. All right, so that's lit. Labs that gives you the capacity to, you know, reorder and name your different components of your plot. Remove the gray background, relabel this axis, and add a title. Which graph am I referring to? I guess I'm referring to the PhD and college data frame. That's fine. Okay, that's fine. We'll just progress forward with this question. Remove the gray background. With the theme BW, relabel using LABS. And then that works. That's good. So I already talked about theme, where theme allows us to now make specifications regarding the actual title. We can even change the x-axis. So let's say, for example, I'm going to go back here. Within theme, I can actually say I want weight to be red. So I'll say axis.title.x. So axis.title refers to both weight in miles per gallon, but if I do .x, it just refers to the x-axis. And then I do element, and this allows me to control the text of the element, and I can say color, right, is equal to red. And when it comes to this, it's not like it's too hard. It's more or less just knowing the commands. Now it's red, okay? And you can then say, okay, fine, change the size. Size is equal to 15. That's a big size. All right, so you can see that works. Okay, great, fantastic. So that's theme, okay? And as you can see, I'm already mentioning what you can do in terms of the title. You can also change the text. When it refers to the text, it's referring to the 2, 3, the 4, the 5, or on the y-axis. So let's say I want to make the y-axis text, I don't know. I'm going to tilt it at a 90-degree angle. Let's see if I can remember how to do this. Dot text dot y element text. I think it's angle. Yeah, I think I can just press 90. You see now, it's not the same as what it was before. 180. It looks so weird. I'm having too much fun with this. Okay, so you can see how you can make arrangements with regards to the different elements of the graph. So that's kind of cool. I didn't mention this before. Let me erase this because it's going to confuse me. I can actually change the size of my points. I don't think this is in the notes. So size of my points, I can save color. As you can see, it's the same functionalities. Colors, give me a color. I'm by myself. Blue. Then that's cool. So you can do that as well. Okay. So there's a lot of things that you can do in terms of making your graph look different even granted that you already have the data there. You can make it look more presentable. It says increase the size of the y-axis title and the text. You can work on this on your own. That'll be fine. We can also change the font of the legend by adding code seen below. So here, this legend.txt is telling us to actually provide a legend. Actually, no, the fill is telling it to provide a legend, and this is you controlling the text. So I'm going to copy and paste this one and test this one out. All right, so here you see it's already it's this size. But if I were to get rid of fill, I think that that makes sense because there's no distinguishing between the different types of schools. But then if I were to say, let's make this like 8, both of these 8. So this is the text of the actual legend, and this is the title. This is going to make the graph the legend to the right really small. Well, you can see it's really small. Okay, so you can control that as well. And so you can also change the color as well. I mentioned this already, it's in the notes. So it's just by using element text and specifying the actual thing that you're trying to go after. If you go to help, you can actually find out all the things that you can control. And what's nice for this week's data science thinking, we're going to talk about using ChatGPT to make our graphs better. Here you can even make it bold. I'll do this once. You can say that you can make the title bold. Oh no, I embarrassed myself. Not there. Here. Sorry. But then, see now it's bold. You can make it italicized. Italics. Because I don't know how to spell. I think it's just italic. Yeah, so that works as well. So there's a lot of things that you have control over. You can go, this is Google Fonts. If you go here, you can find out what other things you can change and so on and so forth. All right, so one last section. Okay, we got this. All right, so data visualization is the language of decision making. Good charts effectively convey information. Great charts enable, inform, and improve decision making. Dante Villani. Sorry. That's a lot in terms of data visualizations. We've gone through a lot. This is a lot of type of visualizations, which is great. But there are times where you may not necessarily know what colors work best for what you're trying to create, and there's some preset color palettes that already exist. And so what you can do is use some. So here, this is a particular palette. The default's nice, but let's say you want to specify a different palette. And so here, when you run this code, it does its own, it provides its own palette. So even if you do set 1, that's a different palette. Okay. And set 3. And if there's different levels, you can imagine it would set it up differently as well. Depending on your audience, that could have an impact on what your colors should be. Purdue's a big school, so I'm pretty sure if you look deep into it, Purdue's palette in some way, shape, or form is already within R in some way. So I'll leave you all to your own curiosity to do that as well. This is another palette. You can try these on your own. Just know that these exist to see what different ways you can actually change the colors of your visualizations. So when it comes to these palettes, the only thing that's different between these codes are just the palettes, what you just said in the palette, which is interesting. And so here we are we're talking about, we can actually set the colors ourselves. I mean, again, this is fine, but I would argue using a palette is the best way of doing this because palette. Emmanuel. Alright, so this is us defining it ourselves, but at times it could be just better just to have the palette do it for us. So something to notice here is that in terms of the color, we're using fill. So for box plots, for one quantitative variable, or one quantitative, one categorical, you'll be using a fill. But in terms of a scatter plot, you're actually going to be using color. So make sure you take note of that, because it's going to be big in a moment. So if I copy and paste this, okay, empty cars, X and Y. Here, AM, this may work, but this may not work. And hopefully, you, for those who are thinking in the future, this may not necessarily work. And I'll tell you why in a moment. But this is going to be either 0 or 1, and we're going to then plot it out. But the color is going to be based on AM, which is either 0 or 1. You see, so now this is important to this is it not working. So remember, it can only be 0 or 1. It's categorical binary. And so the reason why it's doing this is because it's treating AM, I think that's transmission, as 1 or 0. So this is where that filter, and I'm actually going to remove this line, at least this code. There's a lot of ways of changing this. I could have done this in a lot of different ways. There's actually a very fast way of doing it, so I'm going to do it in a moment. We can do empty cars. And I'm going to change, actually I'm going to do it the easy way first. I'm going to say AM is equal to as.character. Remember, so I'm changing it into a character type, which essentially makes the computer read it as either 0 or 1 as a character, rather than a 0 or 1 as a number. And notice I'm going to pipe it into it, not add it, because this is not part of the plotting aspect of it. So when I run this, now that you can see, it's treated as 0 or 1. Okay, we could have done a case 1, and I don't have time for that. We can do that as case 1, AM 0 or 1, and then specify what 0 or 1 based on what it says here. But this works as well. So make sure you note that needs to be changed. Why is the legend gradient? I just answered that. Not just two values, because it's treating it as a number rather than a categorical binary variable. What differences do you see between 0 and 1? Well, let's look at that. This is a good, investigative question. So most of the transmissions that are automatic are heavier in weight, and therefore have lower miles per gallon. Those that are manual are lighter in weight and have lighter miles. Their miles per gallon is pretty good, pretty fuel efficient. Okay. Which is interesting. Okay. Important note, anything we have discussed below color box plot works with bar plots as well. But again, it's by using the fill, not by using the actual color like we used here. And just for funsies, there's a function called factor. This is the other way of doing this. So factor turns any variable, any quantitative variable into levels. And so if I run this will do the same thing. But it turns it into a factor. That's the other way of doing it. Just for those that are interested. Here, what's going on here, the next thing that stands out in importance, we can actually set the order of the or delineate what each color is going to be, because this is the only way to do that. So meaning that I'm going to specify which bar is yes and which bar is no regarding the private schools. Okay, so if I said that this is no, right, and so this is turning the light bar, the cyan, into no, and the dotted blue into yes. Okay, and that's what's happening here. And as you can see, the reason why this is not ideal in terms of the y-axis, we did this earlier, is that I would say y is equal to private. Okay, so it fixes that issue. Okay. I'm gonna let you all try this on your own. Take the challenge. Take a graph below and make it pretty using concepts you learned in this section. Um, and I think that should be it. That is it, but I just wanted to take a second just to say that there are still a lot of ways of making your visualizations digestible, um, moldable, and we'll talk more about that as time progresses within this class. But it's really important that I show you all visualizations so early in the class so that you have the capacity to create more complex visualizations as we learn more data science, data manipulation techniques. All right, so I think I'm done here.